Hello everyone, and as always, welcome back to my channel. Or if it's your first time, welcome to my channel. My name is Marlene and I talk about eating disorder recovery and everything related to healing the relationship with your own body, with food, and with movement. And today I want to share a little bit more about my personal experience with extreme hunger. As many of you know, I had an eating disorder for a long time, and in my last and only successful recovery attempt, I definitely went through extreme hunger. I now work with a lot of people who are going through extreme hunger, so we're going to share a little bit about that, of course, anonymously. And before we start, just a little explanation. I made a lot of videos about extreme hunger, but I always like to start with an explanation. Extreme hunger is also called post-starvation hyperphagia, which is the scientific term for it. And it's basically a combination of physical and mental reactions to starvation, to a period of dieting. And it can occur basically in recovery from any eating disorder. A lot of people think that it only occurs in recovery from the typical restrictive eating disorders, but because many eating disorders can have very restrictive components, extreme hunger can occur in any eating disorder. A little heads up here, just because I get that question a lot. If you are not experiencing extreme hunger, that does not mean that you cannot recover. It's not like extreme hunger or listening to your extreme hunger when you have it is the only way to recover, because it's something you don't have control over. So if you are somebody that genuinely doesn't experience extreme hunger, you can still recover fully. But for those of you who are experiencing extreme hunger, it is important to listen to it. And extreme hunger is basically the body's way of surviving, because your body can never distinguish between if you are in a famine or if you, for instance, have an eating disorder or you're on a diet. So if we're not eating enough, our bodies automatically think we're in a famine. That is also the reason why our metabolism adapts and oftentimes slows down, and why our bodies are doing a bunch of other things to conserve that energy, because again, if we're in a famine, the body doesn't know when the next time there will be food coming in. So that being said, keep that in mind when we talk about the topic, because it's not that your body is mean to you, that your body is trying to disappoint you. It's really just that your body is trying to survive. And after years and years of an eating disorder, of maybe different phases of an eating disorder, and of a lot of preoccupation also with weight, it only makes sense that that whole topic is extremely stressful and therefore leads to a survival response of the body. Of course, things like hormones, especially when you are malnourished, and that doesn't have anything to do with your weight, but if you're malnourished, your hunger and your satiety hormones can be completely out of whack. Also other hormones like insulin, your thyroid hormones, and also like reproductive hormones, which can have an impact too. They can all completely be out of whack, because if we're not eating enough, especially not enough fat, these hormones will get out of hand. And we see that in a lot of people, even without eating disorders. We see that in a lot of athletes or people overall who tend to work out a lot, and they have to be very, very careful to be very aware of their hormonal health. So hormones definitely also play a big part. The other part is, and I always remind my clients of that, your body is basically an energy debt. You have not been eating enough for such a long amount of time, and it's kind of like every day that you've been over exercising, or you've not eating enough, or you've been purging, or had any behaviors that basically led to not having enough energy and not getting enough energy in, your body is kind of like accumulatively getting into energy debt. And just with a bank account, when you're in debt, you have to pay it off. And that is what your body is trying to do. So seeing extreme hunger like a way of paying off that energy debt can be extremely helpful for a lot of people, because it kind of is a metaphor that can be helpful. Even when the bank account is at zero, so even let's say your body made up for all of those calories, it will not automatically invest. When your bank account is at zero, you will not just make a big purchase. You have to continue saving. So you have to continue making sure that you're getting a little bit more energy in. And this is what we see with a lot of people. That's also the reason why your extreme hunger has nothing to do with your weight. A lot of people think, oh, my extreme hunger should just stop when I am at, a normal weight range, or when I'm weight restored, which on the one hand, you might not know where your healthy weight range is. Just because it's on a BMI scale doesn't mean that it's your personal healthy weight range. And the other part is also your body will continue to have extreme hunger until it feels safe enough to pay off all the energy debt, meaning to heal everything internally. And that can take a year, 2 years, sometimes several years for people. In my personal experience, my extreme hunger was extremely loud. The first couple of weeks of my recovery, I focused on making smaller changes, meaning I focused on reducing my steps and my walking, and I focused on implementing a few more meals and a little bit more energy intake. But I definitely didn't really go all in the way that I just had extreme hunger and listened fully to it. My extreme hunger became very loud very relatively quickly, but it still took me a while to allow myself to really listen to it. Once I did that, the first couple of weeks of that, I was still holding on to diet foods, to sugar-free foods, to, I was eating more, but I was still trying to make sure that I'm, saving up calories, which only made it worse. During that time, I also got very depressed, which was most probably a combination between all those suppressed emotions that all of a sudden all came up because I didn't starve myself anymore. The feeling that I'm now losing my eating disorder because a big part of me was still not ready to let go of my ED. And also just completely being in this space where I feel like a bottomless pit, and I feel so guilty for eating, and I was shaming myself for eating, which of course also made me feel worse. But at the same time, I felt like I couldn't stop, and that's something that extreme hunger does to you. It feels like you have no control over it. You cannot focus until you're not eating. You need to eat the thing, and it feels like you cannot stop. And I know how incredibly scary that can be. But I'm being so descriptive here because it is how it feels for a lot of people. And if you're going through that right now, that doesn't mean that you're losing control. That means that you're in extreme hunger and that your body is trying to save you. My extreme hunger definitely lasted for quite a long time. There might have been some phases where it kind of like was slowing down a little bit and then it was increasing again. And I really had to learn to listen to it. I really had to learn to listen to it despite the people that wouldn't understand. Because unfortunately in our society, a lot of doctors, a lot of therapists, a lot of people overall still don't know enough about it. So a lot of people might be judging it, might think you all of a sudden have another eating disorder when it's really just part of your healing. Luckily, I found eventually a great therapist and a great MD that were both very aware of it, but it took me a while to find these people. And before that, I had to go through a lot of really, really hurtful comments and questions from healthcare professionals, from family members, and it was really not an easy time. But I also, deep down in me, I knew that this is the only way. I knew that I cannot go back and that I don't want to go back. And I just told myself, okay, I'm just going to give myself 2 years or however long it takes. I'm just gonna give this a try. And of course, I was scared out of my mind. I thought, what if my weight gain never ends? What if I will never end to put on weight? What if I will never be able to focus on anything else but food anymore? And those are a lot of fears that I keep hearing from a lot of my clients too. A lot of very common fears, and it makes sense that those fears are there because you're basically trusting something that you probably have never done before. But at the same time, for me personally, I just allowed myself to let it all go. I allowed myself actively to listen to it and to see what happens. I do have to add though, I had to work a lot on my mental restriction too. I had to work a lot on not body checking, on not judging myself for wearing way bigger sizes now, for maybe sometimes not even being able to find something in a regular store. I had to allow myself to let go of that skinny identity that I was holding on to for so long. Had I not done that, my eating disorder would have probably either come back or maybe my extreme hunger wouldn't have normalized over time, because as long as we're holding on, as long as we're not working on our self-worth, as long as we're not working on these underlying beliefs, our body will feel like it's still in a scarcity because we're still stressing out. So this is an important part too. And this is not to say, oh, if you're not there yet, if you can fully accept yourself, you're screwed, because that's not how it works. But it's more to say, please take a look at both sides and please allow yourself, even though there might be a big resistance internally, to really work on certain things, to really allow yourself to work on your self-worth, to become more confident, whatever that means for you. That might be extremely important. I really hope this video helped you guys. Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.